Move out of the house. We're moving back in with my husband next month. You're single, so you need to leave. My sister's first contact in ages was shockingly self-centered. As I listened to her selfish demands over the phone, memories of the past came flooding back. Since childhood, she had treated me like her personal servant, and whenever I tried to resist, she would raise her hand and force me into submission. To her, my obedience was simply expected, and she seemed completely oblivious to how outrageous her words were. I quietly sighed. While my sister hadn't changed, I had. It was time she learned her place, and I slowly opened my mouth to speak. My name is Philia, and I just turned 36. I work at a company and lead an ordinary life. At first glance, I probably look like any other woman you might meet. But my family is a bit, no, quite different. And not in a good way. I have a sister who's 3 years older than me. Her name is Wendy. She's a strikingly beautiful woman. Born to our gorgeous parents, a handsome father and beautiful mother, Wendy inherited the best features from both of them. Wendy is such a beautiful child. We're so blessed to have such a pretty daughter. Our parents were extremely focused on appearances, and that was even the reason they chose each other. However, 3 years after Wendy was born, they had me, a completely ordinary-looking child. I wonder who you take after. Right, how did we end up with such a plain-looking kid? My parents would say such things to me without hesitation. While they never physically abused me, I don't think they felt any real affection for me. Eventually, they began comparing me with my beautiful sister and showered her with all their attention. This pretty doll suits me better than Philia because I'm prettier. My sister gradually adopted our parents' attitude and started looking down on me. She would often take my toys if she liked them, claiming them as her own. At first, I would cry and resist, but she would hit me until I gave in. Our parents would pretend not to see what was happening. Eventually, I came to accept that being trampled on by my sister was normal. She would steal everything, toys, candy, anything I wanted. So I decided to focus on something my sister couldn't take away, studying. When I was crying about my sister's bullying, a close female classmate worried about me and gave me this advice: "You're good at studying. You helped me with my homework, and you got such good grades on the last test. You can beat your sister at studying." When I heard these words, I was grateful to my friend for showing me this possibility. Studying was enjoyable for me because I could see results proportionate to my efforts. One year, I received top marks in all subjects. I had nearly perfect test scores and was often praised directly by teachers. Thinking my parents might finally praise me, I happily returned home. That's pretty good. The teacher was full of praise during the parent-teacher conference. Well, it's good you found something besides your looks. Though their enthusiasm was lower compared to when they praised my sister, they did compliment me. Hearing those words, I was so happy I could have jumped for joy, finally feeling accepted in this family. However, my happiness was quickly shattered by my sister. "You're beneath me. It's 100 years too early for you to get praise from mom and dad." Jealous that our parents had praised me, my sister threw away all my study materials. I broke down crying at this horrible treatment. Our parents came when they heard the commotion, but they didn't scold my sister. "We'll buy you new ones, so stop crying. Wendy doesn't need to study, she's cute and charming just as she is. That's all we need from Wendy." Watching my mother sigh in exasperation and my father console my sister, I realized I had been mistaken in thinking I could become a true member of this family. From then on, I focused solely on getting out of this house as soon as possible. After that, I stopped showing my emotions at home and kept conversations with my family to a minimum. While our parents didn't seem to care, my sister called me arrogant and continued to bully me. It seemed tormenting me was her preferred way of relieving stress. Then, when I was in my second year of high school, my sister, who had graduated and was working part-time jobs, made an outrageous announcement: "I used up all your college money." Sorry, I didn't mean any harm. Incredibly, my sister had spent all the money our parents had saved for my college education. Apparently, she had used it to buy brand-name bags and clothes. I was so shocked by my sister's incredibly inconsiderate behavior that I couldn't even get angry. Meanwhile, our parents said, "Well, her part-time job money isn't enough for Wendy, and that's that. Philia, give up on college." Without scolding my sister, they told me to abandon my college plans. I felt intense anger toward my parents for a moment, wondering if they really loved my sister that much. But getting angry wouldn't help anything. After that, I searched for colleges that offered scholarships and saved money from part-time jobs while studying. After getting accepted to college, I immediately moved out using my savings and started living alone. Why are you so desperate to go to college? You're creepy, always studying. Your life is over, wasting your youth on studying and part-time jobs. Despite being forced into this situation because of her, my sister showed no awareness and instead mocked me. But after getting accepted to college and moving out, I was no longer bound by my sister. At last, I was free from her. For a while after that, I was able to live peacefully. I made good friends in college, learned many things, and gained life experience. After graduating, I joined a major company and started dating a colleague named Danny. He was very kind and would agree with whatever I said. However, the peace didn't last long. I was thinking about marriage with Danny and decided to introduce him to my parents as my fiancé. "Oh, he works at your company?" "Well, if he works for a big company, I suppose that's fine." My parents seemed uninterested in Danny's ordinary looks, giving off an attitude of, "Do whatever you want," about the marriage. However, I was concerned about how my sister kept staring at Danny. My sister was already in her 30s, but still lived at home and worked part-time jobs. She couldn't move out because she spent too much money and couldn't save anything. Then she did something unbelievable. "I want you to break up with her. I've fallen in love with your sister." One day, Danny called me to meet at an upscale restaurant, and my sister was there too. While I was wondering why she was there, Danny dropped this bombshell. "Sorry, Philia. I fell in love with Danny the moment I saw him." My sister said this while pressing herself against Danny, who was grinning foolishly, completely smitten with her. Seeing them like this, I thought, so that's how it is, and felt disgusted. My sister had stolen my fiancé. Danny works for a big company and has good prospects, right? If I marry someone like that, I'll be set for life. As my sister showed no remorse whatsoever, anger welled up inside me. I had thought Danny was kind. But looking back, he just nodded along with whatever I said, showing little initiative of his own. He wasn't kind, he just went along with whatever was convenient at the time. And my sister was, well, my sister. While her tyranny might have been tolerated when we were children, things were different now that we were adults. I see. Well then, I'll be filing for compensation. So I decided to do what I could to my sister and Danny, responding in a calm tone. But my sister just snorted. "Huh? You and Danny weren't married, so you can't claim any compensation. Yes, I can. Why don't you look it up online? Don't think you can get away with stealing someone's fiancé without consequences. Faced with my anger, my sister looked puzzled, and Danny turned slightly pale. And then, they did something even more unbelievable. They eloped and disappeared. They moved away because they were worried about you demanding compensation. It's your fault Wendy's gone. We thought we'd finally get to see our grandchild when she found someone to marry. When my sister contacted our mother about eloping, instead of blaming my unreasonable sister, she blamed me. Our father was the same, demanding to know how I would take responsibility. Am I surrounded by nothing but unreasonable people? I sighed heavily while ignoring my parents' verbal abuse. Getting compensation would be difficult now. So I decided to forget about my sister and Danny and look forward to meeting someone new. 5 years later, I received a call at work from an unfamiliar number. Hello? Since I use my phone for work, I answered immediately thinking it might be work-related. However, the caller wasn't work-related. Hello, Philia? It's been a while. Is that you, Wendy? The carefree voice on the other end belonged to my sister. Since she had eloped with Danny, I hadn't been in contact with her at all. I had tried calling her cell phone once, but it wouldn't connect, possibly because she had blocked me, and I hadn't tried to contact her since. The number showing on my phone now was unfamiliar, so she must have changed phones during our time out of contact. I was somewhat surprised by this sudden contact from my sister, but knowing it couldn't be anything good, I frowned and started to end the call. What do you want? I'm busy with work. Hey. This is our first sisterly chat in ages, and you're being so cold. Holding back from saying that she seemed to have forgotten what she'd done, I kept my mouth shut. Saying the wrong thing would only make things worse. But I really was busy with work and didn't have time to deal with her. If you don't have anything specific to say, I'm hanging up. I'm really busy. Fine, if you insist. And then my sister dropped a bombshell that made my eyes widen. I'm moving back to our parents' house with my husband next month. You're single, so you need to move out. At first, my brain refused to process such an outrageously selfish statement. But as I gradually understood its meaning, I remembered that this was exactly the kind of person my sister was, and I wanted to hold my head in my hands. I married Danny where we ran off to, and we had a cute child who looks like me. I'm getting tired of living here, and I thought it was time to do something for our parents, so we decided to move back home and start fresh. My sister started bragging about her life without being asked. So you're in the way. You're living at home, right? You need to move out before we move in because you'll be in our way. I had moved back home before my sister left. More accurately, I was forced to return when our mother fell ill and needed care. Our father was my guarantor for my apartment and threatened to withdraw unless I returned. I could have used a guarantor company instead, but I knew my father would show up at my place and make a scene if I refused, so I reluctantly moved back home. By the way, my sister, who had been living with our parents, had moved in with her boyfriend before our mother fell ill. My sister had been dating another man while stealing my fiancé. She was truly unbelievable. Oh, and make sure you clean thoroughly before you leave. Also, prepare a housewarming gift. Actually, since you have terrible taste, just give us cash. As my sister made these outrageous demands, I quietly sighed. Then I slowly opened my mouth and replied, "Okay. Can I hang up now? I need to get back to work." My sister seemed quite surprised by my unexpectedly compliant response. Well, if you understand, then I guess that's fine. Okay.
Bye.
Then. And I hung up on my sister. After 5 years, her selfishness hadn't changed. If anything, it might have gotten worse than before. Ignorance must be bliss, I muttered to myself, with no one around to hear. 1 month later, I received another call from my sister while at work. I stood up from my desk and went into an empty conference room, knowing her calls tended to be lengthy. Hello? When I answered, my sister's ear-piercing scream came through. Hey, where's the house? I almost laughed at her completely predictable reaction. Yes, our parents' house that my sister was planning to move into had already been demolished, and only the land remained. In fact, the house had been torn down 6 months ago, and the land had already been listed with a real estate company. Coincidentally, they had just found a buyer. The location was good, not far from the station, with supermarkets and hospitals nearby. While the house was too old to find a buyer, the location was excellent, so they quickly found a buyer after listing just the land. When I explained this to my sister, she was speechless for a while. Hey, are you just going to stay silent? I told you I'm busy, right? If you're not going to talk, I'm hanging up. Startled by my exasperated question, my sister came to her senses. Then, in a fury, she started yelling at me. How dare you sell my house without permission? Your house. Why would it be yours? Why? I'm their daughter. Of course the house and land should go to me. I was utterly amazed that she truly hadn't changed at all since childhood. No, it was rather impressive that she still thought such self-centered claims would work at age 39. I carefully explained to my sister everything that had happened after she eloped. That house and land were legally transferred to me by our parents. So both the house and land are mine. Well, I had the house demolished since I didn't think we'd find a buyer. All the paperwork is in my name. None of it is yours. Remember when Mom's health declined and I moved back home before you eloped? After that, her condition got worse instead of better. Our mother, after turning 60, seemed to despair at losing her beauty and started binge eating and drinking recklessly. This unhealthy lifestyle took its toll, and she fell ill. Though doctors repeatedly told her to change her lifestyle, she wouldn't listen and eventually ended up hospitalized after severely damaging her health. And our father had always been fond of alcohol and cigarettes. When our mother fell ill and couldn't maintain their previous lifestyle, his stress apparently increased. His drinking and smoking increased, and he ended up hospitalized after our mother. Thinking it was their own fault, I quietly supported their hospital stays. However, instead of showing gratitude, they made this demand: when we get home, you'll take care of us. That's right. You're our daughter, so you have an obligation to care for us. Despite barely treating me like a daughter before, they finally acknowledged me as one when they found themselves in trouble. I realized anew that my parents saw me as nothing more than a convenient servant. Looking at the two of them making selfish demands, I fully understood. I no longer had any familial feelings for them. Yes, they had raised me until high school graduation, but that was all. I had never once felt happy being in a family with these people. Why should I sacrifice myself for such people? So I made a plan and proposed this to them. In that case, give me the rights to the house and land. Also, I'll manage your bank accounts. What? You're just after our assets. Facing my parents' angry expressions, I responded expressionlessly, you can refuse if you want. But if you don't accept these conditions, I won't take care of you. My parents looked frustrated but ultimately agreed to my conditions. They had no one else to rely on. They had cut ties with all our relatives because they were only nice to attractive people. Also, the aged couple wouldn't be able to arrange nursing care services on their own. While my conditions might seem harsh coming from their daughter, they were nothing compared to what they had done to me. After they were discharged, I arranged for external nursing care services to look after them. The costs came from their savings, with me covering any shortfall. I could have taken care of them myself, but I was busy with work, and honestly, I didn't want to care for them even if they were my blood relatives. When my sister was bullying me and making me cry, they did nothing. In fact, they once said, "Your crying face is so ugly. With a face like that, no one will ever marry you. If you can't get married, don't come running to us for help. You'll have to live alone." These words cut deep into my heart and still leave a scar today. Why should I sacrifice myself to care for people who would say such things? They should be grateful I'm even paying for their nursing care. After I explained all this, my sister suddenly interrupted as if remembering something. "That's right. Where are Mom and Dad? If the house is gone, where are they?" Amazed that she was only now worrying about our parents, I answered her question. "They're in a nursing home." "What? Weren't you supposed to take care of them in exchange for getting the house and land?" I decided in-home care had reached its limit. They're now living in a 24-hour care facility. One day, the care service staff I had hired told me that continuing to care for them at home would be impossible. Even after collapsing, my parents continued their self-centered lifestyle. Even in the hospital, they would sneak off to the smoking area when nurses weren't looking and buy snacks from the shop. Living like this, they would likely damage their health further soon. Thinking this, I presented the condition of transferring the house and land to me before they were discharged. I knew they would eventually lose their physical independence. I was making plans in my head then, wanting to secure whatever I could before that happened. I quickly found a care facility that could accept them and placed them there. Since putting them in the facility, I hadn't visited them once. So I wasn't entirely sure what kind of life they were living or what their current situation was. Mom and Dad are in a nursing home. This news seemed to shock my sister considerably. Well, that's understandable. The people who had doted on her were now old and in a situation where they had to live in a nursing home. She had planned to rely on our parents by moving back home, so it must have been shocking to have that option taken away. I can give you the facility's address if you want to visit them. How can you be so calm about this? Why? Because I don't feel anything about what happens to those two. Unlike you, I never received much love from them to be shocked about this. By the way, I was paying the portion of their nursing home fees that their pensions didn't cover. I think I'm being a more filial daughter than my sister, who's doing nothing, just by providing money. But they raised you. Don't you feel any gratitude? I'm repaying that gratitude now by paying their nursing home fees. My sister, who hadn't known I held such cold feelings toward our parents, was completely flustered. I can't believe you're so ungrateful. Say whatever you want. Are you done now? When I coldly responded to my flustered sister, she came back with an unexpected demand, then give me all the money from selling the land. I'm married with a child. Unlike you who's single, I need to support my child. I need that money. My sister was screaming and carrying on. Even after all this time, she still thought such selfishness would work? When we were young, I couldn't defy my sister's orders. Even now that we're adults, she apparently still thought I would do whatever she said, just like when we were children. No, the rights to this land are mine. I won't give you anything. What? Don't you care what happens to my child? It's impossible for me to feel sympathy for your child whom I've never met. Besides, isn't that child yours and Danny's, the man who betrayed me and ran away without paying compensation? I have no desire to help a child born from that. While the child might be innocent, just being my sister and Danny's child made them an object of disgust to me. Even if they weren't like my sister and were a good, obedient child, I wanted nothing to do with them. When I told her this, my sister flew into a rage and hurled insults at me. Don't get cocky, you ugly single woman. You're inferior to me in every way. It's only natural for you to obey your superior. If you understand, then shut up and follow my orders. Did she think I would obey if she just yelled loud enough? Her ear-piercing voice was very unpleasant, and I frowned while moving my phone away from my ear. You're just a loser whose fiancé I stole. You can never beat me in anything. Not then, not now, not ever. My sister's triumphant voice came through the phone. However, she had made one big misconception. Single? I'm already married. What? Hearing my sister's pathetic voice, I almost burst out laughing. Barely holding back my laughter, I dropped the biggest bombshell on my sister. I married someone from one of our company's business partners. He works for a bigger company than ours, and he's the most successful person in his age group. He's already a department head at 38, and he's scheduled for promotion to division director next year. After being betrayed by Danny, I threw myself into work to deal with my feelings, and as a result, I secured a business opportunity with a famous major corporation. Their representative was my current husband Eric, and we hit it off immediately from our first meeting. We exchanged contact information and started meeting outside of work, naturally beginning to date. After putting my parents in the nursing home, I married Eric. That's impossible. How could an ugly person like you marry such a catch? Someone like you who sees men as just a catches wouldn't understand, but he's a wonderful person who truly cherishes me. Meeting Eric was really lucky. He's a very understanding person who accepted everything about my family situation. In the end, I'm glad I didn't marry Danny. By the way, I once showed Eric a photo of my sister, but apparently, she wasn't his type. Your ex-fiancé was a real fool. To think he didn't marry such an amazing woman. Because of what happened with Danny, I was a bit worried about my sister stealing Eric too if we ever met, so I showed him her photo. However, Eric completely dispelled my worries. While my sister was speechless from this shocking revelation, I dropped another bombshell. You seem to be having a hard time. Danny's about to lose his current part-time job, isn't he? What? How do you know that? After eloping with my sister, Danny quit our company. He was probably afraid of my compensation claim. Both he and my sister had been confident that with our company's decent name value, they could find new jobs wherever they ran off to. However, their expectations were completely wrong. At first, Danny managed to get a full-time position where they moved, but he quickly quit because he didn't fit in with the workplace environment. This pattern kept repeating, and now he was juggling multiple part-time jobs. He was about to lose those jobs too, and he had contacted his former colleague at our company to see if he could come back. However, this colleague knew about what happened between Danny and me, and refused to help someone who had quit the company for such selfish reasons. Then, they told me about Danny's contact. Your husband is working so hard while you're just playing around all day, aren't you? No wonder you're running out of money and trying to move back home. Too bad your plan fell through. By the way, Danny's parents were sensible people who repeatedly apologized to me when they heard about the broken engagement. They promised that even if their son tried to come back, they wouldn't get involved. Therefore, my sister and Danny could only rely on my parents. However, since my parents were already in a nursing home, they couldn't rely on them either. My sister seemed to finally understand this, as she fell silent, losing all her previous energy. Then she tried emotional manipulation, begging me for help through tears. Please. We can't take it anymore. We got kicked out of our apartment because we couldn't pay rent, and we can't go back to where we were. You're the only one we can turn to. Please, help us. To my sister's sobbing, I responded in a cold voice, why should I help someone who was so cruel to me? Have you forgotten what you did? I almost couldn't go to college because of you. I'll apologize for that. I'll properly apologize for everything I did to you. So? However, I cut off my sister's words, don't bother apologizing. No matter how many times you apologize, I won't forgive you. There are some things in this world that can't be fixed. Our relationship is one of them. We may be blood-related sisters, but our relationship is beyond repair. You need to understand that. My sister's sobbing grew louder. But I mercilessly delivered my parting words. Goodbye. I hope we never meet again. And I pressed the end call button while listening to my sister's crying. Before blocking my sister's contact, I sent just one message. It was information about the rundown apartment where I had lived during college. This apartment's rent was so low that I could afford it even with my student part-time job wages. Because I couldn't get financial support from our parents, I had lived in poverty in this apartment that looked like it might collapse at any moment. You should be able to barely afford this rent. After sending just that, I blocked my sister's contact. Thanks to getting a new phone just in case, I had no further contact with my sister after that. Eventually, my sister and her family decided to live in that apartment. Danny found a new part-time job, but their life continued to be one of extreme poverty. Finally, Danny declared to my sister, if you won't work, I'll divorce you. My sister had barely worked for years, completely dependent on Danny. If he divorced her, her life would obviously become even worse. My sister apparently started working at a local bar. Once, I thought I saw a flashily dressed woman who looked like her. She had completely lost her former beauty. I almost didn't recognize her at first. My sister had thought she had taken everything from me, but in the end, she was the one who lost everything. As for my parents, they're apparently living quietly in the facility. The staff keeps strict watch over them, so they can't do whatever they want like before and feel constrained. However, they seem to be living a healthier life than when they were at home. Meanwhile, I'm living a peaceful and calm life with Eric. The sale of our family land has been completed, and we're discussing using that money to buy a house. This is because I'm currently carrying a small life inside me. We're in the middle of planning our home, thinking a house would be better for a family of 3. While my life has been full of hardships until now, I've finally found my own happiness. And I'll do anything to protect this happiness.